Such as with the stories you just heard, we're not all superstars, and sometimes it's just as subtle as rolling a kayak in front of your parent or your house parent and being successful at that really changes the trajectory of a child's life. There's really very few of us that have God given talents that really put us in superstar status. I have the honor of introducing Jaya John, who is our guest speaker tonight. And Jaya is not here because he's a superstar. And Jaya is not here because he has a long connection with Cal Farley's. Jaya is here because he has a tremendous understanding of the human condition, especially as it relates to children, and especially as it relates to children who are in out-of-home care. Jaya is the founder and executive director of Soul Water Rising, Soul, S-O-U-L. He's an internationally recognized professional speaker, and he has spoken to over 70,000 adults and youth. And he's an award-winning author of Black Baby, White Hands, A View from the Crib, and he will tell you about the significance of that. The author of The Reflection Pond, a meditation on identity, culture, and healing in children separated from their original families. Author of Beautiful, which is poetry celebrating children and youth separated from their original families. And an author of Legendary, a poetic tribute to those who honorably serve devalued children. I first heard Jaya at a conference. It was the Texas Network of Youth Services. And I didn't have to, I've heard a lot of speakers. I didn't have to spend more than 3 minutes before I realized that Jaya would connect. Took him out to Boys Ranch today, and he connected with the youth out there who happen to be from coast to coast. We have youth from 27 states, from New York to Los Angeles to Florida and Arizona and Oklahoma. And Jaya connected with them in a way that helped give them the sense of belonging that they were all part of the same family. And he's one of the only people that I've ever seen the kids out there give a standing ovation to Jaya. They've never done that to me. And but then that's not my role, is it? So I want to introduce to you, and I think you will be as impressed as I am, Jaya John, my friend. Come on up here, Jaya.
Howdy, y'all. Good evening. How are we doing? It's getting a little later. Got some food on the belly. You aren't falling asleep, are you? Okay. I got to very first, ask us to give thanks above for the blessing of this moment. As this morning when I was sharing with the young people out at the ranch, I must explain that my life, a very particular journey that I've been on, beginning with a birth into foster care, my life has taught me the importance of gratitude. My life has taught me the importance of understanding and recognizing a blessing when it occurs in your life. This is a life skill, right? This is a life skill. It's not English or history or social studies or mathematics. It's not science, but the ability of a child to recognize his or her blessings in the moment instead of years later, that's a beautiful skill. I had to learn it slowly and painfully because you see with this big head and this thick skull, it took a while for that lesson to get through, but it got through. And so I give thanks above for the blessing that brought us here by the hundreds, healthy and safe. We were able to get in cars and come from across the state, and we were able to get onto airplanes, many of you. Myself, I flew in yesterday from Silver Spring, Maryland, where I live, and was able to make it here safely. The plane went up in the air and it came down. That's God's grace, right? We've been seeing some planes fall out of the sky of late. So it's God's grace. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful that I woke up this morning. I'm thankful to be a part of a spiritual moment. I always emphasize that when human beings come together on behalf of something as precious as the lives of children, that's not a business meeting. It's not a corporate meeting. It's not an economic summit. This is a spiritual moment. Our opportunity to reaffirm to ourselves our human spirit. So for all of these things, I am thankful. I want to also thank my brother Dan Adams, who I've learned has a very unique spirit of his own. He has a certain vision, a capacity to see truth beyond the conventional ways of doing and seeing things in the world. And I believe that's a rare quality for a person to be able to not go the way of conformity, but to forge his own way on his own path, led by his higher spirit. And that's what I've learned very quickly about this young man, Dan Adams, who I was fortunate enough to meet last summer. So I want to thank you, Dan, for your vision for this evening that included me in such a generous way that allowed me to be here tonight. I want to thank you, Dan, for the life you've lived that has forged in you the character that you have, your beautiful family, your wife Charlotte, and your son Hunter. I want to give thanks to all of you alumni who are here tonight. Let's give the alumni of this ranch a genuine hand. I'm curious how many we have, and could I ask you to show of hands? I'm not going to ask you to stand up. The alumni here tonight? Beautiful, beautiful. I want to give thanks to the board. I think oftentimes we undervalue what a board does, what a board is, the role a board plays, steering the ship on those often rough waters. It's a responsibility that involves keeping that larger organization, that larger mission on task, on course, on direction, on par with excellence. So I give thanks to the board and the advisory board as well for your roles. I give thanks and honor and praise to the Farley family. I'm thankful to be able to see you all here this evening. Your reach extends farther than you know. I've already met folks out in the community who know you and care about you. I'm staying at the Ambassador Hotel? And so the lady, the sweet young lady working in the gift shop by the name of Joan, I walked in there today after I had spent the morning with the youth, and she was grinning and smiling at me and just shining brightly. And she asked me what I do. And I said, well, that's an interesting question. I don't know what I do, but I know the gifts I've been given, the blessings that I've been given. And one of them has led me here to this day with you all. And she said, oh, I'm a dear friend of Miss, how do you pronounce that? Harriman. I like that, a unique name. She said to tell you hello on her behalf. And she sort of kind of winked at me and as if to say she wished she could have got into this exclusive party tonight. I don't know if you were supposed to give her an invitation or not, but she said to tell you hello. So thank you, Farley family. Thank you for your generations of compassion and giving. Thank you to the donors. Thank you to the advocates, staff, teachers, all the folks behind the scenes. Thank you to the AV folks that have made this moment move so smoothly tonight. All of these things are important for me to just set the tone of gratitude. Dan shared with you certain facts about my life. I want you to understand where I'm coming from, the life that has shaped me. I've been a blessed soul. I'm a rich and wealthy man, not in the pocket, but in deeper ways. I would like to suggest this truth as I see it. When you invest your money in the stock market, you're at the whims of the world, because you could wake up tomorrow and that investment be gone. Many folks have learned that of late in this country, right? But when you invest your resources and your heart and your soul into the life and the well-being of a child, that is an investment that can only accrue, right? It's an investment that can only gain in interest. It's a no-lose situation. And so I believe, again, that tonight it is imperative that we reflect on and understand the true essence of this work and why we're here and what this is all about in an economically troubled time, to remind ourselves that we have been making, and you all have made through the years and the decades, the grandest investment of all into the lives of our young. I want you to understand that from the mouth and the soul of a foster child who was born and set adrift in the wild. I want you to understand that I'm here to give thanks to you. You are the ones that carried me through. Because of your love and your compassion, you represent the spirit of those who I came across in my life, my early life, and who would not let me drift. You are the spirit of those, and so I'm here to give thanks to you tonight. Because poetry is my voice that I've discovered, I'd like to share with you a piece, if I may. Is that okay? By the way, I'm still trying to get the roast beef out of my teeth, which is not cool when you got the big head put up on the big screen in the close-up high definition. So, am I all right? Okay. I'm all right. I'm gonna slightly edit the beginning of this and to make it fit for the evening. So this poem is in honor of each and every one of you. Say God bless you and thank you for receiving this from me. She, Cal Farley's employee. She, Cal Farley staff. Cal Farley house parent. Cal Farley's donor, alumni, advocate. She was going to change careers until this came into her. A letter from a young lady, a Cal Farley's resident, and she reads the young lady's letter over and over yet again. And the letter reads, "Dear Mr. President, I've known terror in the cold bed of my nervous sleep. It crawls through my window and puts frost on my floor, bangs on the pipes and taps on my door. I've known terror far too well. Each day when I wake, fear casts a brand new spell. I know terror in my brother's face as he slumps off to school, not knowing whether he'll be shot by a peer or snagged by cruel fate. And I know terror in my mom's sad eyes as she serves me half a meal, scared that she can't see $50 coming her way to pay for the next half a meal she'll serve to her children to last a whole another day. I know terror in the hate that targets my skin and the dirty desire that prowls from my curves. I know terror in the chill that spreads through my nerves as the hopeless trade gunshots through the night, and I keep waiting for a bullet to turn out my light. I know terror in the hole in my chest where everyone's nasty ideas of me bore through before coming to rest. I know it in not knowing whether tomorrow I'll be put in the system or kicked out of school because I can't learn. And I know terror in the way grown folks shoot disgust through their eyeballs at me at church as they pray. I know it in our naked school library with hardly a book and all the supply money our state budget took. I know it in the lurch in the nook and in the cranny and in the hospital that turned away Granny because she had no insurance that day. Dear Mr. President, I know terror. I know it in my neighborhood's only insurance plan, the one that says you folks in that community are sure to get the very last crumb. If you think we're going to give you what the good folks get, you sure must be dumb. Mr. President, I don't know. But I do know this. I know you care a whole lot about fighting bad guys you call terrorists. You say you'll chase them to the ends of the earth. But dear Mr. President, can you please start in my city first? I know terror that takes to the shadows and leaps from the walls. You go to war on terror to keep bad things from happening, but my terror lives. Bombs blow up around me every day in abuse and neglect. Bad things have perfect attendance in my school. Make every curfew at my house. Mr. President, you go to war overseas, but please, won't you go to war right here for me? After reading this letter once more, she, Cal Farley's employee, She copies it and mails it to the president, the administration, and every single member of Congress, and every single elected official she can think of. She mails herself the same letter twice a year. And she goes out onto the field to wage love against the cold that creeps through windows and leaves frost on the floor. She knows terror. Thank you. I wanted to share that poem with you because I've really reflected the last few years as we've sent our girls and our boys over to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I live out in the D.C. area in Silver Spring, Maryland, and so we have the Army, Walter Reed Army Hospital out there in D.C. I don't know if any of you have been out there and been to that hospital. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And so all of our young boys and girls who've been physically damaged by that war and losing of the limbs and damage to the skull, and even the damage that we cannot see so well, the internal trauma, they come back through Walter Reed. And so I see them in my community, I see them everywhere. So it's hard for me not to reflect on what it is we're doing. And so I've reflected for a few years now on our young people and what are they thinking? What are they thinking in terms of going off to war? What are they doing it for? I believe they are not doing it so that they can protect a strong economy in these United States. I don't believe that's why our young people feel the patriotism, feel the determination, feel that surging inside of them that says, I'm going to serve. I'm going to serve. For a young person to feel a call to service is an admirable thing, especially in a society that too often teaches selflessness these days, right? Teaches our young people to look for a handout everywhere they turn, to find young folks who want to serve. We've got to really think what it is that they are feeling inside. What do they love about this society that they would want to protect? And I believe it's not a strong economy. So though our economy is suffering, I believe that the thing that they are trying to protect is represented right in this room here tonight. They are trying to protect a United States of America, a society, a way of life that has throughout the generations provided the very same things that Cal Farley's model of leadership and service makes clear to us. Our young boys and girls are trying to protect a land in which children can grow up and have an opportunity to feel a sense of safety. They are trying to go over to far shores and come back so that we can maintain a life in which our young people can experience a sense of belonging in their homes, in their families, in their communities, and on their streets. When a lot of children in the world aren't able to experience that at all, even in the best of economic times in their countries. Our young people go over to fight not terrorists in turbans. The true terror that lives in the child's heart is composed of a fear, a lack of safety and belonging and power in their lives, a self-determination, the idea that if I have a strong work ethic and that if I take care of my woundedness and I get to know myself and I make amends and I forgive and I learn how to learn how to learn, and take advantage of the school opportunities and everything that the campus and the ranch provides. If I do all these things, I have the power to change the course of my life, even if the early season of my childhood was somewhat unfortunate. This is what our young people are overseas protecting. This is what Cal Farley's exists for. This is what you have donated yourself to. And as exemplified in the video, it wasn't just a sense of safety and belonging and power, but also purpose. Our young people are trying to protect a land that has always had a sense of purpose to it. A purpose anchored in the concepts and the values of freedom and justice and achievement and exploration through adventure. We've always been a pioneering society. We've had the daringness and the courage to learn more about ourselves through learning about the world. That's why I wanted to share that particular piece, because it was a young girl's plea to her president that he or she understand from that Capitol Hill that true terror lives in the homes and the hearts of these children that we serve, that you serve here in the Panhandle and throughout the state. The idea and the faith that it's never too late to intercede in the life of a child. When a person makes a choice to invest money in the stock market, that is based upon concepts that have to do with the well-being of that individual and family. That individual and family doing the investing, but when we invest in the lives of children, this is a truly divinely charitable act. We are saying that these children and their lives mean enough to me that I will put my life into them. I will have faith in the lives of those young people, that they will rise again, that they will take on leadership positions in this world, that they will learn to heal from their wounds. To me, this is what the evening is all about. This is a celebration of generations here in this room. Generations, some young and some of you a little less young, but I'm still going to call you young. Even in your 70s and 80s, it's all relative, right? But generations in this room that have continued to pour into the same thing. The alumni who were once served by Cal Farley's divinely blessed environment, and teachers and staff now wanting to return and serve back into that same environment. True terror is the absence of safety, belonging, power, purpose, achievement, and adventure. That's true terror. This is not an academic message I'm sharing with you. This is my testimony. And I want to share a little bit with you about what that exactly is, because as I mentioned, I was born from the womb of a woman. How many of you in this room were not? Show of hands. Okay, I just didn't want to assume anything. I just didn't want to assume. So we all have that common trait, don't we? As diverse as we are, varied as we are, we come from different parts of the country. Maybe some of us come from other countries. Were there a few youngsters there this morning who were from Japan? No? I don't know what they were messing with me, I think they were messing with me. You know, young folks. Okay. I believed them. I was gullible. There was one? Oh, okay. So it was a she? Okay. So she meant what she said. All right. Okay, that's pretty cool. See, the world is involved in this. The world is involved in this. So we were all born from a common experience. And I mention that because it's important for us to always seek out the common bonds that make us. Too often in this country and in other countries around the world, we learn and are taught to focus on the uncommon differences between us that break us. I was born into the system, property of the state. I was a ward of the system. My mother, as she carried me, my birth mother had a name for me, and that name never made it to the record books. I showed up on the hospital information sheet as baby boy Scott. I think that was my first name. I was born on October 26th. By Halloween, trick or treat, I was placed in my first foster home. I think I had another name that had been given to me by then. And then I was placed in another foster home. And I was sharing with the youth this morning that that foster home that was headed by a woman, a black woman with a lot of love. She had a chest full of love. But she also had a home full of children. She had a lot of children in that home, us foster children. And you know, the thing about it is, and I emphasize this for our understanding, and Dan said the same thing to me yesterday, that it's an illusion, this idea that children don't come from loving homes. When they end up in the street or in trouble or in trauma, the idea that they didn't come from people who loved them, that's an illusion. Pretty much all children come from people who love them. The human challenge is that so many of us as adults are struggling and suffering ourselves that we are not in a situation in order to sufficiently take care of our own children. And that's what creates the jeopardy. It's not the absence of love, but it's the presence of capacity. And Cal Farley's, in one day I have seen and witnessed the depth of capacity in terms of compassion and skills and insight and experience and resources and just a general spirit of compassion, a circle of embracing these young people. I've seen it in Cal Farley's like I've seen it in no other organization that I've been blessed to visit in 20 so years of doing this work. Not in several countries around the world. I've met 30, 40,000 youngsters, 40, 50,000 grown folks doing the work, and I have never witnessed what I witnessed today. Mike was, and I was going with Dan and Mike Uh, they were driving me around the ranch today after I spent the time with the young people, and Mike was telling me stories about how this building got built and who donated for this building over here. And he kept telling me these stories, and I was driving around and I was in awe, I was in amazement, because something divine has been happening out there at that ranch. Something divine has been happening since the very beginning, since the first spark was lit. This was obvious to me to see. And so I was thinking to myself, man, this is kind of nice out here. And I was about to ask Mike, what's the age limit on becoming a resident, and where can I sign up? I'd like to go fishing on some of those bodies of water. I'd like to shoot hoops with the young men, and I'd like to. What a beautiful campus with the cottonwood trees, even though they are naked in winter right now. It's a beautiful place. It is a place that has the capacity to give our young people what they need, so that our young people can learn how to honor and love themselves. I did not have that. That was my struggle. I ended up in that foster home, and she just had not the capacity to take care of all of us. I was a fortunate child because I eventually ended up adopted by a family from Peoria, Illinois. My mom and dad rolled out of Peoria in their old jalopy, came across the country to New Mexico, and they wanted to have a large family quickly. That's my dad's story. That's what he told me. I don't know what my mom would say. My dad said, and this is a man for you. My dad says, because I asked him, why did you have children by birth and adopt children? What were you doing? What were your mom thinking? And he said, well, we wanted to reduce the wear and tear on your mom. I said, what? Fortunately, my mom wasn't in the room, or, my parents might have gotten a divorce. I said, Dad, couldn't you have put that a little more smoothly? But I understood where he was coming from. They just loved children, and they wanted a large family. That's what they both came from. So they had my sister Kristen by birth. They adopted me. They came to the agency, and they said, we want to adopt a child. They thought it would be maybe a Caucasian child or a Native child or a Latino child, because they were in New Mexico. Little did they know this, the social workers were starting a new experiment. And the experiment is what they called it too. They said, these little black children, we need to put them in homes. We can't just have them staying in these situations. And so although it wasn't the convention of the time, the social workers decided they were going to do something that hadn't been done before. They were going to place a black child in the home of a white family. And my mom and dad to be decided they were going to do something that had not been done before in the history of that state. They both came from a Peoria, Illinois, an Illinois that was heavily segregated. They grew up in that, and they were going to go against the grain. They were going to go against the social value system that they had been raised in, that said that those folks belong over here and those folks belong over here. They were going to go against that grain. And see, that's to me what this spirit is. Tonight, the spirit of 70 years of going against the grain. Because a man had a vision, and that man had a heart, and that heart was filled with compassion. And I never met him and don't need to understand the essence of his character, because he understood in that moment that I need to go against the grain. I'm fixing to get all sort of criticism. But I believe that these children over here, who these folks over here tell me I should not care so much about, that these children over here deserve the same kind of opportunities, the same kind of safe environment to discover their beauty that I had and that the people I know I had. And I know that was the conversation that he had inside of his heart, because that is the conversation of compassion that continues throughout our human history. We're talking about human nature. We struggle with prejudice and hatred and fear, those things that drive us from one another, but there is a more powerful thing, a divine love that draws us near. It is compassion, not sympathy, not feeling sorry for somebody, but understanding that in that child is the giftedness of beauty and potential equal to that in me and mine. And that if I pour myself into that, I am making the world a better place, the world in which me and mine have to live in. 70 years of this spirit is what we celebrate tonight. The true war on terrorism. And I honor you all as the true soldiers in that war. the true warriors in that war, those who would stand steadfast and say, we're not going to allow this society to slide into the true despair of so many children who've lost their souls, lost hope, lost lives. I grew up in a white family, in a white town, in a Latino and Native American state of New Mexico, in the United States of America, separated from my original family. I grew up lost in the wilderness, not knowing who I was, no sense of safety, because I felt that I was constantly, at any moment, going to be subject to that unfortunate arrow of prejudice. No sense of belonging, because nobody around me seemed to be able to relate to me. Nobody seemed to want to even understand what my experience was. No sense of power over the direction of my life. No sense of purpose, an understanding that in fact I was being blessed even in my pain. Even in my pain, I was being blessed. As I shared with the young people this morning, it is pain that forges us even more than joy. It is suffering that gives us the ability to understand the suffering of others. And in that season, as a young child, instead of understanding my purpose, because it would be later that I discovered it, I wallowed in that pain and self-pity, and I created an even deeper pain that was an unnecessary one. And a lot of the young people that we care about and work with and raise, they deal with the same self-delusion that says, why me? Why is this happening to me? And then they create a whole chain of excuses for how they can start to just mess up and self-destroy in their own lives, because they haven't been shown their purpose. But how do you discover purpose? Through being given the opportunity for achievement, and that comes through adventure. When I was growing up in those mountains of New Mexico, we went camping and fishing and hiking all the time, every weekend. I was fortunate enough, my mom and dad, who raised me, they put me and my brother Greg in the Boy Scouts, and it was fortunate enough to go all the way through the Boy Scouts to get that rank of being an Eagle Scout. And I learned so many values based in a spiritual truth about the nature of the world, not the material values, but a spiritual value system that helped me understand how to get from death's door to here tonight, to make it when so many others don't. And I didn't understand how I was being blessed. Even the pain of my struggle created into me a character that would cause me to be determined to speak the truth. Because as I leave here tonight, I want you to understand this. The first season of my life, my childhood, those first 18 years, I did not speak. I was mute. I was silent. I was scared to death of you, the world. I was scared to death of myself. I hated myself. I had no self-esteem, no belief, no hope, no confidence. And so I didn't speak because I didn't want you to notice me. I didn't want you to notice me. But because I had been given the opportunity for adventure, like the adventure that the young people are getting on that ranch, I was able to experience moments of achievement, not just academic achievement or athletic achievement. I mean, I did well in school ultimately. I was able to learn enough about myself to realize that, okay, maybe you are smart enough to go to college, and maybe you are capable enough of going beyond college and doing all those things. And maybe you're good enough to play ball in college and do those were certain kinds of achievement. But here is the achievement I want to leave us with as an exclamation point to the moment. The achievement that I began to experience at about the age of 17, when a lot of these youngsters out at the ranch are starting to make their transition out into the world and out into the rest of their journey. The achievement that I began to experience was that I began to learn that when I poured myself into relationships, into others, my peers, my friends, other adults, something phenomenal, something magical, something divine happened. A spark, a twinkle, a light, something would come up inside of them. And for the first time in my life, I realized I am worthy enough, I am valid enough as a human being to affect the lives of other human beings. It never occurred to me before that I was that big. I thought I was this small. That was the beginning of my understanding that I had a responsibility to take the experiences of my life and transform all of that pain and suffering and self-doubt into a positive, powerful, important, potent force. And that I had a responsibility to carry that with me through the rest of my life and to share it in every moment that I had an opportunity. Any chance I could smile at a child who was walking on the street, I had a responsibility to do that. Anytime I was given the opportunity to tell a story about our human nature and the importance of compassion and service, I needed to speak and not be mute. I learned that through those moments of adventure that give me the opportunity to achieve impact on other lives. That's what is being celebrated tonight. Not just the achievement of our young people academically, but they are beginning at this very age to learn that they can positively impact other people's lives. They can become mentors and teachers and preachers and reachers, right? They can understand it's not just a dream that I want to be a minister one day. The young man can understand that he is already ministering. He's seen evidence at the ranch of his ministry on his peers. This is the source of his belief in himself. This is what Cal Farley's has done. This is what is at the core of the well-being of this society. It is not the strength of our economy. The economy is a secondary thing. The economy, when it is strong, comes from a population that already is composed of young people who have been brought up to believe in themselves. Young people with a sense of integrity so that they do not fall to the temptation of greed and selfishness that leads to a poor economy. See, the economy is the consequence of the state of being of the people. 60 and 70 years of you all creating the capacity for our nation to be strong because you understand that you can't just let a young life go. You understand that, in fact, when you do, you are letting your own future go and the future of your children. You understand the interconnectedness of life. This is what my life in jeopardy has brought me. That's how I've been blessed by my pain. I've been blessed by my suffering and struggle early in life. I'm saying that when young people are encouraged to tell their story, we should help them to understand that even the pain of your life is not a negative thing. The pain of your life is a blessing itself because our God works in a mysterious way. You see, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, and I acted as a child, which meant that I was wild. I had no sense of structure, integrity, value, principle. And so I just felt sorry for myself. But when I became a man, it was only because I had the opportunity to spend time inside of relationships, the greatest never-ending wealth that a human being can acquire. Nobody can take away your interest from the bank of relationship. This is who we are. This is what our wealth is in the world. This is what makes this country strong. This Texas, this panhandle, this community, this society, this humanity, the compassion, the love, the service, understanding that I exist to serve the world. I was not born to be served. So on behalf of my brother Greg, who was also born into the system, and like you, my brother, I experienced the loss of my brother because he could never learn how to love himself. He never learned that he was beautiful. He never discovered his purpose. And so he died as a young man. But on behalf of that beautiful soul, on behalf of the beautiful souls of the young people that I met today and that I've met throughout my life, on behalf of you beautiful people who have lived lives very different from me and at the same time very similar to me, because you've all experienced loss and suffering. On behalf of you, on behalf of the beauty of what it means to be human, I say God bless you for being here. God bless you for having made this 60 and 70 years happen. God bless you for the road ahead. God blesses you for blessing the lives of others. I love you. Thank you. Good night.
Dan, don't ever make me follow someone like this again. Jaya, we have a memory for you. It's the. He is a quick learner. Actually, the reason I say this Boys Ranch branding iron is a memory for you, I know you've already been branded on the heart today by Boys Ranch. We appreciate you so much. God bless you too.